All right, everybody. So you may have known yesterday there was a huge day of action throughout the country. Hands off. The hands off mass mobilization. Look at all those red dots. Looks like a measles outbreak.
Wow.
Haha. There you go. So, mass mobilization Saturday, April 5th against Donald Trump.
It's all the places, coincidentally, with the highest vaccination rates.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason it's everywhere throughout the country is every state capital had one. So all 50 state capitals plus a lot of major cities and a lot of states. Look, I mean, California's, just all red, the entire East Coast. Tons of events here. And this is kind of a sampling of the crowd at one of these events. There they are, the libs. They're so back. They're so back. That's what we're going to call this podcast, I think, because, they got their mojo back. They, spent a few months on the couch, stress eating and, mixing those Xanax and the Chardonnay. But now they are back in action. The Democrats tweeted out this video of all these rally crowds in major cities throughout the country.
Hands off our Social Security!
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Yes! Yes!
So, yes, big crowds indeed throughout the country. Those are some of the major cities. This is in a relatively small city of Concord, New Hampshire, population just 44,000. And here is the crowd in Concord, New Hampshire.
Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up!
I mean, that's a pretty big crowd for Concord, New Hampshire. I mean, what they got in Concord, New Hampshire? Apple picking, pumpkin picking. I mean, a Christmas festival. That is quite the crowd for a tiny little town. They also had one in Salt Lake City, and this will give you a nice idea of the nature of these protests. Steve Schmidt went live from the Salt Lake City hands-off protest, the Lincoln Project. Steve Smith, former Lincoln Project, right?
Hey everybody, Steve Schmidt here. Standing at the Salt Lake City protest, 10,000 strong gathered here on the 5th of April in the Beehive State. This moment is happening all over America. In all 50 state capitals, hundreds of thousands of Americans have taken to the streets to protest, to assert their rights. The government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish under a Trumpian haze.
All right, that's enough of that. Hey, this will give you another idea of what this crowd was like. The Fourth Reich, with, of course, the big names of this administration in their Hitler garb. And then, of course, you notice the Ukrainian flag on the shirt there, which, the irony of protesting Nazis while standing for Ukraine is apparently lost
on those folks. Yeah.
Lost on these folks, yes, indeed. But so this gives you an idea of what these crowds like, man. I mean, the libs are back. A lot of love for Ukraine at this rally set, so to speak. So much so that Gerard noticed on their poster, the big lib protest legit has one of the demands as hands off NATO. That's right. So it's hands off Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, blah, 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 down the line.
Put a ticket in, make her gay!
Exactly, yes. And, of course, hands off NATO. Wow. I mean, controlled opposition is supposed to be a little bit more subtle than this, right? I mean, hands off NATO. Wow, that's kind of giving it away, is it not? But notice among that list of hands off this, and this, the LGBTQ, the consumer protections, cancer research, public lands, veteran services, no mention of Gaza or Palestine. Not hands off Gaza, hands off Palestine. So Hashim here says, how do you organize a nationwide protest called Hands Off and say nothing about Gaza? Not even a mention. Not one line. It could have flowed seamlessly. Hands off Gaza, stop funding genocide, end all military aid to Israel. But no such demand appeared in the list. In fact, this made the rounds here. This is a working class and homeless organization that posted to their Instagram. Organizers from Indivisible had asked WHOA to speak and to table at this event, one of the hands-off offshoots. I'm assuming this was somewhere in North Carolina, since this WHOA organization is based there. However, they have demanded that our speaker not mention solidarity with Palestine, and we will not participate in erasing a genocide. Yeah. That's, according to them, makes sense, given that it was not one of the demands. It seems like they deliberately avoided that because it might be too divisive or something. But God bless Code Pink. They showed up to Washington, D.C. To attend both the hands-off protest and the Free Mahmoud Khalil pro-Palestine protest. Both protests were in Washington, D.C. at the same time yesterday. They attended both, but it's good that they made a point to stop and set up at hands-off, because here's what they had to say about this event.
No, yes to peace.
Okay, so yeah, not only did they set up a pro-Palestine little station, but they also made, as part of their plank, no NATO, which was in direct defiance of the mission statement of the rally.
No to NATO, yes to peace. So here we are at the hands-off march at the foot of the Washington Monument. This is a march that says hands off, and we're saying hands off Palestine. We're here with this sculpture to show what is happening. The people don't seem to notice because it is nowhere in the conversation here. But what's amazing is that we've already given away a whole roll of stickers that says feminists stand with Palestine. So in their hearts it's there, but in the messaging it's not. We're here to raise up the hearts, the empathy for those people, those children, those mothers, those caregivers, those ambulance drivers, those media workers, those press people that are been murdered by the IOF, by Israel, with our tax dollars. We are here to say hands off Palestine. And while we're at it, no to NATO. NATO is a violent force that has been creating death and destruction for decades. Not hands off it, no to NATO. Yes to peace.
God bless them. God bless them. And, you know, look, I believe that they handed out a lot of feminists for Palestine there, which just shows you all the more that this was really a controlled opposition event. I mean, obviously, you had Nancy
like
Pelosi speak at one of them. Yeah, it's like the Women's March, right? Even if there is sentiment, I'm sure most of the people there are pro-Palestine to some extent, probably more casually than they should be, because, of course, a lot of the hardcore pro-Palestine people had a Washington, D.C. event to go to that day. In town. But you know, they were still out there, you know, getting the message out at what is just, I mean, you know, they just remind you how cringe they are every chance they get, do they not?
Yeah, we're going to be getting a lot of that today when we get to the Taibbi piece.
Right.
I said to a Democrat the other day, listen, the best thing you guys could do right now, tell all your politicians to go hide in a bunker somewhere through the midterms, and you follow them. You just hide, okay?
Right.
And just run them without people ever seeing them or hearing them.
Right.
That
exactly,
is your best shot. You
Yeah.
do not benefit at all from people seeing what your idea of an alternative is. All you're doing is making Trump voters who might be having second thoughts feel a lot better about the choice they made every time you show up.
Hands off NATO. I mean, how sick do you have to be?
They learned nothing.
Yeah.
They learned nothing. All this shit about, they've got soul searching to do. They're not capable of it, because this is the result. The modern Democratic Party is the result of decades of rot. You're talking about institutional rot from within. And you're talking about the message they projected being completely misguided for decades. so that the voters that they have now are the last voters in the world with any interest in rocking the boat. They went after these very safe, comfy, suburban, ironically, mostly white people, given that they love to virtue signal their care for all the other groups. Most of them are white. Most of them are rich. Most of them are educated. That's what they wanted. Clinton called it the wire workers. Today we call it the PMCs. It's had another name, but they knew what they wanted. Now you got them, and you have an ostensible left party that's owned by Wall Street and that's pro-war and that doesn't want to challenge institutions. There's no reason for it to exist. This is why, no matter how horrible the alternative might be, it's the line of Big Lebowski. Say what you will about National Socialism, at least it's an ethos.
Right.
It's an ethos. What is this? What is this supposed to represent? Who?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really mind-boggling. And, you know, one of the other hallmarks of controlled opposition is when they plan events like this at the same time, and in this case, in the same place.
Same day.
Right, the same day and time as the pro-Palestine event in protest, specifically with a focus, I should say, on the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. So here's some scenes from that. So this is same day in Washington, D.C. So you can see a pretty big crowd there, pretty healthy sized crowd there. This is the video that went viral from that for a heartbreaking reason, but for good reason. A massive banner has been unveiled with the names of Palestinians killed by Israel since October of 2023.
The most merciful. I remember the image of this
It's like a painting of a tarmac.
when he was
I didn't realize those were all names. Wow.
And the only thing that showed was this press vest and his body under.
Yep. They also had people bring children's shoes and line them up to represent all the children who have been killed. And of course, Code Pink, while they were in town for the Shit Lib March, did make a point to show up at this march as well. So here's a little bit of their footage.
With thousands of people in Washington, D.C. to call for an end to the genocide in Gaza and to call for peace throughout the world.
We are here because the escalation is happening, so the people have traveled from across the country to escalate our voices to say free Palestine.
And we're here to say no genocide, stop the genocide.
And we're just one of 1,000 marches all around the country. We're mobilizing to stop the genocide, and also we're connecting this. The genocide and the colonialism abroad always comes home, and we're seeing it come home in a big way with deportations and abductions of students.
So we need to stand up
Giving us our responsibility.
for Mahmoud and for all the students who were deported and for the people of Gaza.
We need to do everything that we can in every moment possible to stand for an end to the genocide and for a free, liberated Palestine.
Well done. Well done. So, yeah, I mean, look, like I said, when you have this many shit lib marches going on, it does definitely depress turnout for the pro-Palestine marches, not just in and around D.C., but, you know, if you live in, you know, upstate New York, as I do, and you're anti-Israel, but you're also anti-Trump, you may have gone to D.C. for the pro-Palestine march, but hey, there's this anti-Trump thing that's happening right around the corner, so I guess I'll go there instead. You know, that affects turnout as well. Despite that, they seem to have very good numbers at the D.C. event. My father was there. He said the turnout was good. It's a little hard to tell, you know, what the estimated numbers are, because obviously the groups will give their estimates and then the cops give their estimates. But as we could see there, I mean, they had a pretty good turnout for the Mahmoud event. Very high turnouts for the hands-off events. And, you know, this is one of those moments where you would like to intercept some of these libs and try and radicalize them as best you can. But as you see time and again, they just really make it difficult to impossible. I mean, look at that. I mean, what can you do with that? What can you do with that? I mean, they won't even put Palestine on the event. How could you not put Palestine on the event? How could you leave that off? Well, we know how they could leave that off, because the Democrats are a pro-Israel party and they don't want to touch this. Nobody wants to touch this. Nobody at town halls ever brings it up. I noticed that when I covered the primaries in New Hampshire, Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, Democrats, they didn't say a peep about this unless it was brought to them by an audience question. There is just silence on this from Democratic leadership for obvious reasons. Chuck Schumer in his book says it's part of his mission to keep the left pro-Israel, right? And so that's exactly what this is.
It's the same party of good little boys and girls and hall monitors that it was 6 months ago. The election didn't change that. That is who they are to their bones. You're not going to take these suburban libs and radicalize them. This is who they are. This is how they understand politics. They defer to leadership. In the end, even if they're mad at Chuck Schumer, all it'll take is Maddow and the rest closing ranks around Schumer, and all of a sudden they'll like Schumer.
Right.
Schumer got the message. I was very angry at him, but he got the message.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bother covering this whole thing where, there was a poll that came out that had AOC beating Schumer by like 19 points in Democratic primary. Yeah, that's now when they're pissed at him and they're mad at him. They'll figure out some rationale to
They will do whatever they're
welcome
told.
him back into their good
stay
graces.
Off Israel,
of course.
Because the signal they've got is that's a bad topic. We don't want to talk about it.
Right. That makes us, meaning the Democratic Party, look bad. So, even when you have people there at the event who are pro-Palestine, I mean, Code Pink said they were handing out stickers left and right, feminists for Palestine.
Well, but also one of the most foaming at the mouth Zionists I know was at the Bryant Park event.
Oh, sure. Well, but this is why.
Pictures. That's another reason.
Right. They don't want to alienate them.
Is made up of these fanatical Zionists.
Right. And so they don't want to alienate them. But I'm saying even those with more just like lib sensibilities who are pro-Palestine, yeah, they'll take the sticker from Code Pink. But as Code Pink said, there's really no conversation. There's no conversation about it, right? Like, it's just not, you wouldn't think that a Holocaust is happening as we speak, as that event goes on, which is really just, I mean, it is just so shameful that Gaza is not on that list. I mean, it's just, it's so horrible.
And that's why in the end, right, wrong, or indifferent, I have no patience for these pigs. I have no patience for their virtue signaling bullshit about trans communities and black communities and brown communities and Asian communities. I have no patience for it. You have a genocide going on right now, and you are too cowardly to speak out about it. That negates what you have to say about anything else.
Yep. 100%.
Please clap.